Nowadays, it's a little different out of those areas. Nowadays, you're looking to become cyber criminals.
Right.
Okay.
And then also Israel. Israel, they're
Very
known,
effective.
they started, or they created the Pegasus.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Are you pretty familiar with Pegasus?
I'm not. I can't speak on that.
I don't know a lot about it either, but I know basically it's a hack or some sort of program that you can purchase from Israel for
the
like
phone stuff, right?
for like $500,000 to 0 day into somebody's phone.
Right.
And basically turn it into your phone.
Which is really nifty.
Which is fucking crazy. The Saudi prince, Mohammed bin Salman, did it to Jeff Bezos.
So, and you think about that, all right? You think about, in our country, we had Snowden that warns about that privacy, warns about government intrusion, things like that. And I'm not a huge fan of Snowden, but he warned about that. And we're talking about a free country where that's happening. You take Saudi, you take some of these countries that aren't very friendly to their citizens that have a tool like that. Oh
Yeah.
my.
Yeah.
It's very, and evidently Israel was not, adverse to selling it to these people either.
Right.
So that's a huge issue all of a sudden. I will say that as far as cybersecurity goes, Israel is top notch. They really are with security companies and stuff like that. They put out some amazing products and they do very effective work.
Well, they said in the documentary about Stuxnet, one of the reasons that the U.S. decided to collaborate on Stuxnet with them is because they didn't want them trying to start an all-out war with Iran.
Right.
But then I guess the Israelis, they got impatient and they like winged it and installed the virus with all these clues that tied it back to them, which made it become so apparent to everybody where it came from.
And that's a lot of the problem with cyber attacks. You see a lot of people you see a lot of politicians, all right, that talk about, well, how do we know that these attacks came from Russia? Or how do we know these attacks came from this country? How can we attribute that? Well, the problem is that there are telltale signs of forensics. The way the countries are set up with their cyber, the products that they use, everything else, the IPs that come in, all that stuff leads in where you can say this guy did it, specifically this group did it,
Right.
because that's the way this group historically has operated. So you can attribute pretty effectively who it is, and the U.S. was right. I mean, hey, before you launch that shit, you may want to cover your tracks a little bit better than you have.
Yeah.
Because somebody's going to get pissed off.
Yeah, and that was during Obama, and
Right.
they showed basically him talking to the press about it or whatever, and he was just basically straight up like, if we find whoever leaks this kind of shit, we're going to prosecute you to the full extent.
Yeah, they're going to put you under the jail at that point. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. But you've got people that do that leaking all the time. You're talking. I've got to do a show on. I had a request to do one on Assange and Manning and Snowden, and that's a hell of a talk when you think about it. You take Snowden. He stole so much data that if it were printed out, it would fill a dump truck. Now, he tried to say, I was aware of what I stole. No, you're not. You're not. You don't have a clue what you took. Now, I grant you, hats off to you for letting everybody know what was actually going on. I grant you that. Turns out nobody really gave a damn from the looks of it. At the same time, we as Americans, we give up all of our information for a free game sometimes. And that's it. My problem with Snowden is that he decided to run over to Russia instead of sticking stateside.
Right.
And you look at him now, you've got this Ukrainian war thing going on, and he's quiet as a church mouse.
Right. Yeah, they don't even have Twitter over there anymore. They don't have anything,
anymore.
No
So
internet, no nothing.
it's like, what are you doing, man? At least Manning had the guts to stick around and stand up for what she believed in. He then, she now. But I respect Manning far more. I don't like either one of them, but I respect Manning far more than Snowden. I think they both did good things, but I think Snowden could have handled it a hell of a lot better than what he handled it.
Yeah, I've had a few people on here with the same sort of idea, same sort of opinion on Snowden, that he did the right thing. Most people say that he did the right thing the wrong way.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't think that, they cut Manning loose. I don't know how much time he served, but they cut him loose. They would have cut Snowden loose the same way if he had just stuck stateside.
Well, there was a uncovered CIA plot to assassinate Assange.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. That was there. But, you know, at the same time, I mean, I think that Assange starts out, certainly he's had a hard-on for the United States.
Yeah, that's what
Right.
is unfairly against the United States
Right,
when all
he
these other
has.
countries are doing the same thing.
Right. He's had that, all right? But at some point, the guy goes way past what proper journalism is. You know, that idea that the government now says that he assisted Manning with stealing that data, actually walked Manning through exactly what needed to be done. This is how you do it. All right, well, that is not journalism. That's conspiracy to commit a crime. So I'm all for him. I've actually met Assange through video.
Really?
Yeah, very bright guy. I was at a conference in London, the Cybersecurity Summit conference. That was back in 2017. We were all on a panel together. He was at the Ecuadorian embassy, zooming in.
Wow.
And I mean, extremely bright guy. This guy goes off and he starts talking about, he was relating the internet to the way that countries have their borders and talking about the differences between the two. I mean, just a brilliant conversation. I mean, it truly was. I mean, impressive as hell when he was talking about that. Then he goes off on a tangent and talks about how he's been locked up for so many years in the Ecuadorian embassy. And I'm sitting there going, dude, you're not really locked up. You're choosing to stay in there. And he's talking about how it was like a prison cell. Well, I'd already seen pictures of his apartment. I'm like, that doesn't look like any cell I've ever been in.
Yeah.
You know, so I didn't really, I think he's extremely bright. I think he's got some cognitive dissonance in there. I think that he had such a hard-on for the United States that he stopped being a journalist in an effort to get him, is what happened.
Yeah.
It's just my opinion, but, you know, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, you know, the United States, they don't have to be accountable for any of the crimes or the murders or anything like that. Yeah. Never.
Well, you remember, you've heard of the Christic Foundation or not?
No.
So there was I think it was down in Guatemala, the CIA paid to have some journalists murdered at that point. And the Christic Foundation comes up and sues the CIA for that shit. And they actually proved it in court that the CIA did that. So that was in the early mid-'80s that happened. So I mean, you've got all these issues that go on. I mean, I was talking to my wife about it the other day. You know, the America that we had, where people trust the government, that shit's been long over. You know.
Oh yeah.
You've got the McCarthy of the '50s. You've got the '60s bullshit. You've got the stuff that happened in the '70s with Vietnam and Nixon and all that, and then you've got all this stuff recently with the misinformation, the fake news, and all that stuff. I mean, the idea of anybody trusting the United States government, Tuskegee experiment, all these issues that's happened over the years, why should you anymore?
Right.
You know, and I certainly wouldn't.
Yeah,
You know?
but at the same time, you know, even though the U.S. government is clearly guilty of all this fucking crazy, secretive corruption and fucked up things that they've done, from coups and the provocateurs, and you know, for different revolutions, like including, I just did a big podcast about the Maidan massacre in Ukraine, and how the CIA was involved in that, and regime change, and just all that stuff. But at the same time, you know, we don't really know what's going on in all these other countries as well.
No.
And I don't know if it's the brightest thing to just have your scope set on the United States.
It's not.
Especially when you're from the United States.
It's absolutely not. You know, it's all these countries are fucking up. We get because we're the biggest, most powerful, we get the main spotlight is what happens. But, you know, I got to say, man, I mean, I'd rather be here than a lot of other countries that are out there.
Yeah.
And I've traveled all over the world. I'm sure you have too. And it's one of these things where, as fucked up as we are, I'll take the U.S. right now.